Give her space and watch what happens next. You've tried everything else. You text to check in, you explain, you apologize, you promise a better version of yourself. She gets colder. You talk more. She pulls farther away. Most men mistake attention for attraction and noise for connection. They don't realize that a woman feels the deepest when there's room for her to feel, when your presence is steady and your silence has weight. Here's the shift. You stop performing and start leading. You let your actions slow down. You let the phone rest. You let your routine, your posture, and your calm speak for you. Not as a game, not as punishment, but as self-respect. When you create space with intention, three things happen. Her ego stops coasting, curiosity kicks in, and she begins to measure the difference between a man who reacts and a man who decides. In this video, I'll walk you through how women actually experience that space stage by stage so you can keep your frame without going cold. We'll cover what to do, what to stop doing, and how Stoic discipline turns distance into gravity. If you're new here, subscribe so you never miss the next lesson. You don't need perfect lines. You need presence, boundaries, and timing. Give less explanation, give more certainty, and let her come toward your quiet with ease. Let's get into it. Number 1. The first shock of your silence. When you first go quiet, she doesn't panic. Not yet. At the beginning, she feels something closer to satisfaction. In her mind, she thinks she's in control. She believes you're just pulling back temporarily, that you'll reach out soon the way you always do. That's the illusion most women live in at first. But that illusion won't last long. Let's put this into perspective. Take Mark, a 55-year-old contractor from Texas, and Angela, 52, who'd been seeing each other for nearly 6 months. Things started strong, constant calls, long dinners, good chemistry. But then Angela began to withdraw. Fewer messages, colder tone, longer gaps. Mark felt it immediately, and like most men, his first instinct was to fix it. He sent texts like, "Is everything okay?" or "Did I do something wrong?" And every time she replied slower. One night something changed. Mark decided to stop explaining and just go silent. No drama. No, let's talk. He simply went quiet. At first, Angela felt that rush of power, that little ego boost that says, he finally got the message. He's into me more than I'm into him. She went to bed feeling like she'd regained control. But here's where psychology kicks in. Within a few days, she noticed something she hadn't expected. The quiet didn't end. There were no new texts, no calls, not even a reaction to her posts. That's when the first shock of your silence begins. You see, a woman's ego thrives on feedback. When that feedback disappears, her mind starts to question the story she's built. She starts asking herself questions like, did I push too far? Is he mad? Has he already moved on? And here's the interesting part, that uncertainty doesn't repel her. It pulls her in. Your silence becomes the mirror she can't look away from. She's forced to feel her own emptiness. Not because you're punishing her, but because you've stopped playing the emotional tug-of-war. In psychological terms, this is called cognitive dissonance, the tension between how she expected you to react and how you actually did. That tension creates curiosity, then confusion, and finally emotion. In Mark's case, Angela started checking his social media, asking mutual friends about him, even revisiting old text threads. The very space he created turned into her mental loop. Now, from a Stoic perspective, this is where you separate emotion from strategy. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. That's your anchor." You can't control what she feels, but you can control what you project. Silence, when rooted in peace, communicates one thing louder than words ever could. I am not reacting, I am choosing. The first shock of your silence isn't about ignoring her. It's about reminding yourself of your worth. It's about showing her that her validation no longer defines your emotional rhythm. And here's what's powerful: once she realizes you're not chasing, her ego starts to crumble. That's when your energy shifts from predictable to magnetic. Remember, the silence that stings her is not coldness, it's contrast. You were once available, now you're not. You were once reactive, now you're calm. That shift is what wakes her up. So don't underestimate that first stage. It's subtle, but it's the spark that flips the power dynamic. She's no longer the one deciding how this story plays out, you are. Now, I want you to write this in the comments below. I choose silence over reaction. Stick with me, because next we'll explore what happens when her ego starts cracking and your calm starts driving her crazy. You don't want to miss that. Number 2. When her ego starts cracking, at first your silence feels like a small win for her. In her mind, she's in control. She thinks you're just being dramatic, that you'll eventually break the silence and come back the way you always do. That's the ego, talking her protective shield against feeling vulnerable. But here's what she doesn't expect: when your silence stretches longer than her pride, that shield begins to crack. This is the moment when her emotions start to betray her ego. She might still post confident pictures, drop cryptic captions, or casually mention how busy she's been. But every move is a test, a quiet question hidden behind the performance. Is he watching? Does he still care? What she doesn't realize is that your calm response, or rather your lack of one, speaks louder than anything she could post. It tells her that your attention is no longer guaranteed. And that realization shakes her. Here's where Stoicism comes in. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." The brave man doesn't fear silence. He doesn't fear losing attention or validation. He stands still while others scramble for control. And that stillness, that quiet strength, is exactly what makes her ego start to crumble. Because women are not used to seeing men who can hold the line. Most men fold when faced with feminine withdrawal. They chase, they explain, they overcompensate. But when you don't, she starts to wonder, what changed? Why isn't he reacting like everyone else? That's the moment you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is magnetic. Her ego starts to lose its grip because the emotional equation has flipped. What used to give her certainty, your attention, your validation, your effort, is now gone. That absence forces her to sit with an uncomfortable truth: she doesn't have as much control over you as she thought. And that realization begins to eat at her. You see, ego is fragile. It feeds on predictability and reaction. It needs to know that it matters. When you deny it that fuel, it starts to panic. It starts to overthink. It starts to miss you, not necessarily out of love, but out of confusion that slowly turns into longing. This is why Stoic men are so difficult to replace. They don't play emotional games. They understand that true power doesn't come from convincing someone to value them. It comes from valuing themselves enough to stay silent when necessary. When her ego starts cracking, you'll notice subtle shifts. She might start liking old photos. She might reply to your stories with a small emoji. She might accidentally text you something meaningless just to test your temperature. These aren't random gestures, they're ego leaks. They're signs that her pride is giving way to curiosity. And the worst part for her, the more calm you remain, the faster her ego collapses. The key here is discipline. Don't gloat. Don't suddenly change your energy to prove a point. Stay still. Keep your focus on yourself, your work, your fitness, your peace. Your silence isn't a punishment, it's proof of evolution. Remember what Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." By mastering your emotions, you master the entire dynamic. And when she starts to feel that shift, when her ego begins to realize it can't control you, that's when attraction starts to rebuild on a deeper level. Because women don't crave men they can control. They crave men they can respect. And respect is born from restraint. So hold your ground. The silence that's cracking her ego today is the same silence that will make her respect you tomorrow. If you understand this, comment below, "I master myself first." Stay tuned, because next We'll dive into what happens when her curiosity turns into craving and your silence transforms into emotional gravity. You don't want to miss that. Number 3. The curiosity she can't hide. Once her ego begins to crack, something new takes its place: curiosity. She starts wondering what you're thinking, where you've gone, and most importantly, why you're not reacting the way she expected. That curiosity isn't casual. It's emotional, magnetic, and completely out of her control. Let's make this real. Jeff, a 56-year-old chiropractor from Florida, had been dating Claire, 53, for nearly 8 months. They had great chemistry at first, constant messages, playful banter, spontaneous dinners. But one week she began pulling back. No fights, no clear reason, just subtle withdrawal. The calls slowed, the energy shifted. Jeff noticed it but decided not to chase. He remembered how his old habits, over-texting, explaining, trying to fix things, had only made him look desperate in past relationships. So this time he did something different. He went quiet. For a week, nothing happened. Then, little signs started showing. Claire liked one of his old Facebook posts from months ago. Then she replied to an Instagram story with a half-hearted, "Haha." A few days later, she sent a random text, "Hey, just wondering how you've been." That right there, that's curiosity. She's not reaching out because she's ready to talk. She's testing the water, trying to figure out what's changed. Because your silence, when held with confidence, disrupts her emotional rhythm. You're not feeding her ego anymore. And that lack of reaction creates a psychological vacuum one her mind can't ignore. Here's what most men don't understand. When a woman doesn't hear from you, she doesn't just forget you. She fills in the silence. Her imagination starts building stories. She wonders, is he seeing someone else? Did I push him too far? Did he actually move on? That's how curiosity turns into attraction. It's no longer about you explaining your worth. It's about her rediscovering it through her own thoughts. Psychologists call this emotional dissonance, when her feelings and expectations don't align. She expected you to chase, to need closure, to explain yourself. But you didn't. That gap creates tension, and tension is the birthplace of desire. The Stoics would see this as a form of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." When you stop reacting to what's beyond your reach, her silence, her moods, her approval, you reclaim your composure. That composure is rare, and women feel it. What makes this stage powerful is that you're no longer trying to get her attention. You've already shifted your focus inward, your fitness, your business, your purpose. And paradoxically, that's when her curiosity grows strongest. Because your energy says, "I'm doing just fine without you." And to a woman, that's irresistible, Jeff told me later. When she texted me again, I felt no rush to reply. I wasn't angry. I just didn't need it. That's what calm detachment looks like. And when he finally did respond, short, polite, composed, Claire's tone instantly softened. She wasn't in control anymore. So here's what's happening inside her head. Your silence challenges her. Your composure confuses her. And your consistency begins to attract her, all without you lifting a finger. That's the irony. The less you try to pull her back, the more she feels pulled in. At this stage, don't break the spell. Don't over-explain. Don't brag about how fine you are. Just stay still, because your stillness is what makes her move. Remember this truth: curiosity grows in absence, not abundance. The more you talk, the less she thinks. The less you speak, the more she wonders. And that wondering is the first step toward missing you. If you understand this, write it below. I let curiosity work for me. Stay tuned, because next we'll uncover how distance itself becomes desire and why holding that space is the most powerful thing a man can do. Number 4. How distance turns into desire. Here's something most men don't understand. Distance doesn't destroy attraction, it deepens it. but only when that distance is held with calm confidence, not bitterness or revenge. Because true desire doesn't come from pressure, it comes from space. When you give a woman space after she's pulled away, at first she feels relief. It's an ego-driven calm. She thinks she's won. She believes she's the one in control now. But then something subtle starts to happen. Without your messages, your calls, your attention, the emotional noise begins to fade. And in that quiet, she starts to feel you. Not your words, not your presence, your absence. That's when distance begins to transform. What once felt like peace to her begins to feel like loss. It's human nature. We crave what feels scarce. When your energy was freely available, she didn't have to earn it. But when you step back, not as a tactic, but as an act of self-respect, you change her internal equation. You become the man who doesn't need her approval to stay centered. And that's the kind of man who becomes unforgettable. This is exactly what Stoic philosophy teaches. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free. Freedom from needing attention is power." When you let go of trying to control how she feels, you shift from seeking validation to embodying value. And that's when the dynamic flips. She starts to feel the distance not as rejection but as gravity. Your silence becomes magnetic because it carries meaning. Every time she thinks about reaching out and doesn't, curiosity grows stronger. Every time she checks your profile and sees that you haven't posted anything, her imagination fills in the blanks. She starts to wonder who you're with, what you're doing, and most importantly, how you've stayed so composed. That's the moment when desire quietly returns. It's not physical at first, it's psychological. She begins to remember how your energy felt, the calmness, the tone, the steadiness. And because it's no longer accessible, it becomes more desirable. Distance creates emotional scarcity. Scarcity creates value. And value, when earned instead of demanded, turns into longing. But here's the key: this only works when your distance is real. You can't fake it. If you're sitting there scrolling her page, checking if she's online or waiting by your phone, you haven't actually detached. Women can sense that energy instantly. True distance isn't about ignoring her. It's about prioritizing yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the mindset. Don't perform calmness. Be calm. Don't pretend to move on, move forward. When your energy shifts from chasing to choosing, she feels it, and that feeling becomes attraction. The moment your silence becomes peace instead of punishment, she can't stop thinking about you. Because now your absence carries the same emotional weight that your presence once did. This is how distance turns into desire, not through games, but through growth. You become the man she can't fully read, the one she can't forget, the one she quietly misses without admitting why. And if you're ready to take this mindset further, to master emotional control, self-respect and attraction the Stoic way, join the Stoic Brotherhood, our private community of men who turn philosophy into power. You'll get exclusive lessons, deeper mindset training, and tools to build true presence in your relationships and your life. Distance doesn't weaken attraction, it refines it. It removes noise, tests patience, and leaves behind only what's real. Because in the end, the man who can stand still while others chase always becomes the one worth chasing. If this truth resonates with you, write it below. I turn silence into strength. Stay tuned, because next we'll explore the point where missing you turns into craving you, and she begins to feel your absence more deeply than your presence. Number 5. The stage where she misses you deeply. This is the moment most men never reach, because they break the silence too early. But if you've stayed calm, grounded, and silent long enough, something powerful begins to happen. Her ego fades, her pride softens, and underneath all that, she starts to miss you. Not just in passing, she misses you deeply. Here's what that looks like. At first, she enjoys the quiet. She tells herself she needed space, that she's better off, that she's moving on. But as time goes on, that peace she wanted turns into emptiness. Because when a man like you, a man who led with composure, calm, and emotional depth disappears, it creates a void. She starts noticing it in the smallest moments. The coffee tastes duller, the nights feel longer. The conversations with friends start to feel meaningless. You see, women don't miss constant attention. They miss emotional stability. They miss the feeling of being seen without judgment, heard without interruption, valued without words. And when you stop giving her that energy, she begins to feel the absence of what she took for granted. That's when her mind starts to wander back. She remembers your tone, your presence, your patience. She remembers that she felt safe with you, and that safety is rare. Psychologists call this emotional reattribution, when the absence of a person causes the brain to idealize them. In her mind, she starts to replay memories of you, but with more emotion than before. The arguments fade, but the moments of peace remain vivid. Your silence becomes louder than any words you could have said. But here's the key: this only happens if your silence is real, not forced, not a trick, not passive-aggressive. True silence. When you stop checking her social media, stop wondering what she's thinking, and actually start living your life again. That's when she feels the shift. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your thoughts stay focused on purpose, not pain, growth, not guilt, she will sense it. And that inner calm is what pulls her back, even from a distance. Now, when she starts missing you deeply, her behavior changes. She might send a short text like, "Hey, hope you're okay," or she might comment on something trivial just to test your reaction. Don't take the bait. Don't rush to reply. Because what she's really asking is, do I still matter to you? Your power lies in responding with calm confidence, not coldness, not eagerness. A simple, composed answer tells her everything you've moved from needing her to choosing yourself. This is the point where longing becomes respect. When she realizes you're not chasing, not explaining, not proving anything, she starts to see you differently. You've become the man she underestimated, the man who doesn't lose himself just because someone walked away. That's what makes her miss you even more. Because now your silence represents strength, and strength to a woman is irresistibly attractive. When she lies awake at night wondering if you've truly moved on, that's when your silence does its work. You don't need to remind her of your worth. She's already feeling it in every quiet moment. So don't break the spell. Don't reach out just because you miss her. Let her live in that space you created. Because every day you remain calm and grounded, her curiosity deepens into regret, and her regret transforms into desire. That's the real power of silence. If this message hits home, comment below. I let her feel the silence. Stay with me, because next, we'll uncover the moment when missing you turns into wanting you back, and how to stay in control when that happens. Number 6. When your calm becomes her obsession. There comes a moment in every power shift, the moment when your calm starts to get inside her head. It's subtle at first. You're no longer reacting. You're not asking, not explaining, not chasing. You're steady, quiet, and focused on your own life. And she feels it. That emotional stillness she once took for granted now feels like distance she can't control. This is when curiosity becomes obsession. See, most women are used to emotional energy from men, texts, apologies, reassurance, the little bursts of validation that remind them they still have power. When all of that disappears and you remain unshaken, something in her begins to stir. She starts wondering, what changed? Did he stop caring? Has he moved on? That uncertainty is what drives her attention right back to you. Your calm becomes magnetic because it represents control. It's not about indifference, it's about mastery. You've stopped reacting to her world and started mastering your own. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's exactly what's happening here. You're not trying to win her back. You're simply proving by your stillness that you were never dependent on her in the first place. And that changes everything, because emotional control isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's approval. And when a woman senses that, when she realizes she can't control your peace anymore, that's when her attraction begins to rebuild. Here's the psychology behind it. When someone's emotional pattern gets disrupted, the brain craves closure. In her mind, you were supposed to be predictable, the man who always chased, always explained, always tried to fix things. But now you're calm, detached, and silent. Her mind can't categorize that. It starts replaying every interaction, every moment, trying to understand what changed. That's obsession, not because of you, but because of what you represent: stability she no longer feels in herself. This is the beauty of Stoic calm. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. The less you do, the more she feels. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. You don't match her chaos with anger or her silence with bitterness. You stay centered, and that contrast creates emotional gravity. You become the calm in the middle of her storm, and humans are naturally drawn to what centers them. She may try to provoke you again, a random message, a vague post, or a sudden attempt to reconnect. Not because she's sure of what she wants, but because she wants to see if she still has influence. Your job is simple. Stay composed. Don't punish, don't reward, just remain steady. That's when your calm turns into something she can't ignore. It challenges her ego, confuses her pride, and awakens something deeper: respect. She starts to see you differently, not as the man who needs her, but as the man she once underestimated, the one who leads himself. And the truth is, obsession born from calm is far stronger than attraction born from effort, because now she's chasing peace, and you've become the embodiment of it. If you understand this, type it below: I let my calm speak. Stick with me, because next we'll uncover the moment her obsession turns into regret, when she starts realizing the silence she created is the one she can't live with. Number 7. The regret she tries to bury. This is the part she'll never admit out loud, the quiet ache that builds after she realizes what she's lost. At first, she tried to convince herself that she made the right decision. She told herself she needed space, freedom, clarity. But now that silence she once wanted has become heavy. It's no longer peace, it's absence. And in that absence, regret begins to grow. Let's bring this to life. David, 45, had been dating Rachel, 42, for about 2 years. Things were passionate but complicated. Small arguments, emotional highs and lows. Eventually, she said she needed time to think. The old David would have begged, called, tried to fix things. But this time, he didn't. He went quiet. He focused on his business, got back into the gym, started rebuilding his rhythm. Weeks later, Rachel started checking his social media again. She asked mutual friends about him, but pretended she didn't care. That's what regret looks like at first: pride wearing a mask. She was replaying memories, not because she wanted the past, but because she missed how he made her feel. The laughter, the calm, the security. She missed his energy. That's the stage where women start to remember not your words, but your presence, the way you handled stress, the way you didn't crumble when things got hard, the way you made her feel safe even when she tried to push you away. And when that realization hits, it's painful, because now she's the one who has to sit with the silence, the same silence she once created. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the discomfort that happens when someone's actions don't match their emotions. She told herself she didn't need you, but her heart knows she still feels something. That emotional contradiction creates tension, and that tension turns into regret. What's more powerful is that your silence doesn't just create regret, it magnifies your value. Because while she's replaying the past, you're evolving. You're calmer, stronger, sharper. You're not trying to win her back. You're becoming the man who doesn't need to. And that's what stings her most, the realization that while she's standing still, you've grown. David told me later. She texted me out of nowhere, said she saw me at a restaurant and didn't expect me to look so happy. That wasn't curiosity. That was regret trying to find an excuse to reconnect. But here's the thing, regret doesn't always look like tears or apologies. Sometimes it looks like avoidance. She might pretend she's fine, go on dates, post confident photos. But late at night when she's scrolling through her phone, she feels the truth that the silence she demanded has now turned against her. This is the point where you have to stay composed. Don't chase the apology. Don't try to fix the past. You already did the hard part. You stayed silent long enough for her to hear her own thoughts. Now let her sit with them. Because the truth is, regret can't grow if you interrupt it. Let her feel it fully. Let her remember what calm feels like and realize it's gone. When a woman starts to regret losing a man like you, it's not about missing the relationship. It's about missing the version of herself that felt steady when she was around you. That's the power of your silence. It doesn't punish, it transforms. If this message resonates with you, comment below. I let regret do the talking. Stay with me, because next we'll uncover how your calm transforms from quiet strength into unshakable power. The Stoic way of emotional control. Number 8. The Stoic way to hold power. There's a kind of power most men never learn, the quiet, unshakable kind. Not the kind that shouts, not the kind that chases, but the kind that simply is. When a woman feels it, she can't explain it. When you have it, you don't need to. That's Stoic power, the ability to stay grounded when everything around you tries to pull you off center. When you give her space and she starts to feel the silence, the real test begins. Can you hold your position? Can you remain calm when she pokes at your boundaries, when she sends mixed signals, when she tries to regain control of the emotional tempo? Because that's what she'll do. Not out of malice, but instinct. Women are drawn to strength, but they test it to see if it's real. And here's where Stoicism gives you the edge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That line isn't about detachment from the world. It's about command over yourself. The man who understands this never loses power because he never tries to control what isn't his. You can't control whether she texts you again. You can't control if she misses you or not. But you can control how you carry yourself while she figures it out. That's the foundation of emotional mastery. A Stoic man doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, and he doesn't explain. He observes, he understands, and he acts only when it aligns with his values. That's what makes him rare. The mistake most men make after giving a woman space is breaking their own frame. They panic when she doesn't respond, they reach out just to check in, or they post something online to get her attention. But every one of those actions sends the same message. You still have control over me. When you stop doing that, everything changes. Because your silence is no longer a reaction, it's a decision. And that decision radiates confidence. She feels it without you saying a word. It shifts the dynamic completely. She no longer sees you as someone waiting for her, but as someone she has to earn back into. That's real power. Not dominance, not control, but presence. Seneca once wrote, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." Think about that. Every time you resist the urge to text her to seek reassurance to prove your worth, you're conquering yourself. You're choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. And that's the kind of discipline that not only attracts women but commands respect from everyone. Here's the truth. When you stay calm in uncertainty, you communicate more than words ever could. You're saying, "I am at peace whether you're here or not." And that's magnetic. This doesn't mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means letting your emotions exist without letting them lead you. It means understanding that self-control is not suppression, it's selection. You choose what deserves your energy. The Stoic way isn't about ignoring love, it's about leading it. The more you master yourself, the more influence you gain, not because you chase, but because you attract. So when she starts to feel the distance, when she wonders why you're not reacting, remember this power isn't loud. It's quiet, composed, and undeniable. Your silence speaks louder than any message. If this resonates, type it below, I hold power in stillness. Stay tuned because next we'll talk about how your energy without a single word begins to pull her back toward you. Number 9. When your energy pulls her back. This is the point where everything changes. You've been calm, quiet, and detached. You stopped chasing, stopped explaining, stopped trying to win her over. And now, without a word, she starts to feel it. Your energy begins to pull her back, not through action, but through presence. Here's what it looks like in real life. Michael, 50, from Colorado, was in a long relationship with Samantha, 46. After the breakup, he wanted to reach out, but instead he focused inward. He worked out, rebuilt his business, and reconnected with his sense of peace. At first there was silence. Then a few weeks later, Samantha liked one of his old photos. A few days after that, she sent a message, "Hey, just thought of you when I passed that coffee shop." That's how it starts. Small, subtle, but unmistakable. Because when a man detaches emotionally, his energy shifts. He's no longer orbiting her, he's centered in himself. And that new energy, calm, confident, self-assured, creates tension she can't ignore. See, women don't crave constant attention, they crave emotional gravity. The energy of a man who doesn't need to prove himself yet carries quiet certainty. When your world no longer revolves around her, she starts to feel your absence differently, not as rejection but as mystery. Psychologists call this energetic inversion, when the one who once had control now feels the pull of your detachment. But here's the secret. This shift only works when it's genuine. You can't fake calmness, you can't pretend to move on. She feels the truth in your silence. When Michael stopped reacting, his life started to flow again. He wasn't performing confidence, he was living it. And that's when Samantha came back, not because he played a game, but because he stopped playing altogether. Stoic philosophy captures this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius said, "You become what you give your attention to." When your attention turns inward toward your discipline, your purpose, your peace, you become the kind of man who naturally draws people in. That's magnetic power. So when she feels your calm energy, she starts questioning her choices. She remembers your steadiness, your tone, your presence. She starts wondering if she misjudged you, if she let go of something rare. That uncertainty turns into curiosity, and curiosity becomes attraction. But here's the rule, don't rush the process. Let her feel your energy fully. When she reaches out, don't over-explain, don't fall into old habits. Keep your calm, because what's pulling her back isn't your words, it's your silence. Your calm energy reminds her of what she lost, a man who doesn't bend, doesn't beg, and doesn't break. That's what makes you unforgettable. If this resonates, write it below. I attract through calm. Stay tuned, because next we'll talk about the final stage, the silence that she can't escape, and why that's when your power reaches its peak. Number 10. The silence she can't escape. This is where everything comes full circle. The silence that once made her feel powerful now becomes the very thing she can't get away from. It follows her in quiet moments, in her car, in her home, in her thoughts. At first she thought she wanted distance, but now that distance feels like a wall she built herself, and the silence behind it has your shape. See, most men think silence is just about not texting, not calling, not reacting, but real silence, the kind that gets under her skin, is deeper than that. It's emotional. It's when your world moves forward without her, when your energy is calm, content, and untouchable. She feels it without seeing you. She feels it because it reminds her of something she can't recreate anywhere else, your presence. When you finally stop reaching out, stop trying to prove your worth and start living again, she starts to hear that silence everywhere. It's not the sound of punishment. It's the sound of peace, and that's what makes it so haunting. She'll try to distract herself. She'll scroll through her phone, talk to friends, even date someone new, but nothing feels the same. Why? Because what she misses isn't your words, it's how she felt around you. The emotional safety, the masculine calm, the way you could hold space for her without needing to fill it. And now she can't find that again. This is the paradox of silence. The more you embrace it, the louder it becomes for her. Your absence forces reflection. It holds up a mirror to her actions, to her pride, to the choices she made, thinking you'd always be there. And the realization that you're no longer waiting, that's what hurts most. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to be loved, love moderation." That moderation, that self-control is what separates a Stoic man from everyone else. You didn't chase her. You didn't try to manipulate her emotions. You simply held your ground. You stayed balanced when she lost hers. And now she's drawn to that balance because it represents something she's missing within herself. That's why she can't escape your silence. Because it's not cold, it's centered. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. It's the quiet strength of a man who's no longer tied to her approval. And that's the real end of the story. When your silence no longer hides pain but radiates peace, she'll feel it every day in ways she'll never admit. You've become the man she can't replace, not because of what you did, but because of what you became. That's the power of a Stoic man's silence. It doesn't chase, it doesn't punish, it transforms. So remember this, you don't win her back by talking. You win by being the man whose quiet speaks louder than anyone else's noise. In this video, we uncovered what truly happens when you give a woman space, how silence moves through her mind, how distance turns into desire, and how calm becomes power. You've learned that your silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's the language of a man who values himself more than validation. If you're ready to master this mindset to live with purpose, emotional balance, and Stoic strength, join the Stoic Brotherhood, where men like you turn philosophy into real confidence and lasting attraction. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next lesson on human nature, power, and self-mastery. Thanks for watching, my friend. Stay grounded, stay calm, and I'll see you tomorrow.